Hey, welcome to the Small Business Made Simple podcast, brought to you by socialmediaandmarketing.com.au. Being in business is never easy, but it can be simple, or at least simpler. Join me, your host Jen Donovan, every week where we focus on marketing, social media, and working towards simplifying your business. You with me? Let's do this.
If you're gonna dream it big, 'cause someone out there listening. Everyone's got a voice to give, and it's time I heard you whistling, 'cause there's no point at all, in dreaming small.
Why, hey there, my fabulous listener. Welcome to episode 265 of the Small Business Made Simple podcast, where today we are talking about 5 practical ways to create more content in your business. Thank you, of course, for lending me your ears today. I know you have lots of choices out there of what to do with your time, so I do appreciate you putting me into your ears and listening to the Small Business Made Simple podcast. Of course, if you are enjoying this podcast, then I would love you to leave a rating and a review wherever you're listening to this podcast, or take a screenshot of you listening and share it on your socials and tag me, because that would be super cool. The show notes for this particular podcast can be found on my website at all the W's, socialmediaandmarketing.com.au/265, in case you need those show notes as we get talking about these 5 ways to help you create more content. But before we get into today's episode, did you get a chance to listen to last week? Last week, Bianca McKenzie was my guest, and she is an meta ad specialist. So an ad specialist for Facebook and Instagram. She shared so many tips and tricks around ads and getting your money's worth, and it was just fabulous. So I highly recommend that if you didn't listen to that one, you head back and listen to my chat with Bianca. And just a heads up, I am doing my 4-week my 4-week email marketing masterclass again in November. So if September didn't suit you and you really want to get your email marketing done, you really want to get on top of it before 2024, then book your spot for my 4-week email marketing masterclass in November. You can find the link in the show notes, but you can just go to bit.ly/email masterclass with Jen. Or, like I said, it's in the show notes if you can't quite remember that because you're out walking or you're driving, or you know what, Jen, I just want to listen to the podcast first. So let's get into it. Today, I've promised 5 ways to create more content for your marketing. Content creation is one of the biggest challenges of small business owners, and probably for you too. Back in episode 250, I did talk about creating more content, but this time I'm kind of talking more about the practicalities of where to find the content. Um, where can you find this content that you need to be creating? Where can you find inspiration to help you create the content that you need to be creating? But of course, put your marketing hat on, because first things first, you need to know your audience. You need to know your community super, super well. This episode really just isn't about creating more content. It's actually about creating content your audience wants to read and your community wants to consume. So, what's the issues that your audience is talking about? What, metaphorically, keeps them up at night? What are they typing into search engines like Google and YouTube and Pinterest? And what are they even asking ChatGPT for, or even Bard? What are they wanting answers to? This is what you need to be creating your content about. I don't care whether you're service-based, retail-based, e-commerce-based, been in business 5 minutes, 5 years, 50 years. Like, this is the type of content you should be creating. What is it that your people are wanting answers to? Because if you want to be a thought leader in your industry, and yes, you 100% do want to be that thought leader, because you want people to think, oh, I need X, and then think of you, whatever it is that is your niche. It might not be all the content you need to create. Obviously, we still have our 5 strategies that we need to be thinking about: growth, engagement, sales, lead generation, and brand. But it is most of the content you should be creating should be focused, should be customer centric. And in order to be customer centric, you need to know what are they asking? What do they wanna know? Just like yeah, just like every other, just like you as a consumer, when you are the consumer for somebody else, they are trying to get your attention by solving your problems. So what problems do your customers, your community have? Um, and so, yeah, that's what we're talking about today as far as content creation goes. So first up is Google. Excuse me. So what I want you to do is I want you to head to Google and I want you to type in some keywords around your ideal client into the search bar. For example, I might write into Google 2023 struggles of small business owners in Australia. Or what do business owners struggle the most with when it comes to Instagram? Now, specifically here, I want to go down and have a look at and click people also ask. So if you just scroll down the page a little bit in Google, you will see the prompt people also ask. And there is a series of probably 3 or 4 questions. But the cool thing is, and the tricky thing is, that the more times you click those people also ask, the more questions that actually come up. So you can just keep clicking them and keep looking at the questions that your audience, if you've asked the question the right way, is actually asking of Google. So, what are they actually so, of course, if you keep clicking, you could potentially get like 12 blogs, which potentially could be a year's worth of blog ideas, or you could get, you could find a source for your, your Facebook Live or your Instagram Live, or for that long form caption on Instagram, or perhaps a LinkedIn article to share with your peers. So, that's something that you could do with Google. And of course, the other great gift that Google gives us on the same page one results is if you scroll down a little bit further, there's like related searches prompt. So you could check them out as well. What have other people kind of searched that's similar to what you're searching? And of course, you could click on those. And then have a look again at people also ask and sort of start to get your content there. And these are things that your audience is asking Google. So they're prime ideas for content creation for your business, as long as, of course, the prompt that you ask is a good prompt to bring up those things. Like you've got to be a little bit meta with it, or a little bit more specific with what you're typing into Google to start with to get the answers that you want. Secondly, to find out some of the biggest challenges your clients and customers or your ideal client deals with. Um, if, say, for instance, your ideal client has issues around pricing or staff or mental health issues or marketing or technology, then you could always go and check out the 2022 results of the Big Small Business Survey. You can find those at all the W's, thebigsmallbusinesssurvey.com, and you could use those results into search engines such as Google and YouTube and Pinterest and even ChatGPT or Bard to create some bullet points or briefings for content creation. For instance, the survey tells us that 22.6% of business owners cite burnout as one of their top 3 challenges of being a business owner. Is this an issue for your clients or your customers or your community? Is this something that they're talking about? If so, is this something you are talking about as well? Like if this is your customer's problem, are you talking about this? Of course, if this is in your realm for who it is and what it is that you want to be famous for. Or perhaps take pricing, which was another result of the Big Small Business Survey, where 91% of business owners saw an increase in costs in the last year. How is this affecting your community? What content should you be creating around that? Around pricing, around the fact that prices are increasing and small businesses hurting. That's something else that you can do. And just by the way, side note here, if you are having a look at the Big Small Business Survey, go and do this year's survey to help us get some other great results that can help you create even more content in your business and more up to date content for your business, because the 2023 results will be out later this year. A third place you might find content ideas and find out what your community or ideal client is talking about is, of course, in Facebook groups. If you know if you know your Facebook, no, that's not right. If you know your ideal client, then you should know where they're hanging out. And if they do, in fact, hang out in Facebook groups, What are they asking advice about in there? Go to some Facebook groups that have great engagement that you know your ideal client or your community belongs to, and use the search function. Search some keywords around your business or around what it is that you want to find out from your ideal clients. You might search the word shipping or the word Facebook or the word gift ideas, depending on what your niche is and what your business is. Think about the keywords that you think would bring up the content or the questions that your community is asking in those Facebook groups. These are your people asking questions. So, why wouldn't you create content around what you find there? Another great place to find out what your community or your ideal client is asking and talking about is a platform called Reddit. So, Reddit is both a website and an app, and basically, subreddits are individual communities centered around specific topics or interests. You can search. If you go to Reddit, you can search in the search bar some keywords and actually get involved in these communities, in these subreddits, as they're called, and give some value and but also see what people are talking about. Um, if you aren't part of Reddit, then go and check it out. It really is pretty interesting what you might find there as long as you get into the right subreddits. So, some points on Reddit, if you're not already over there, is A, know the rules. B, lurk first and lurk often. C, get involved in conversations. And once you're comfortable, you can start your own thread or start your own conversations, put your own posts up. I It's a seriously interesting platform to be a part of. Just like all platforms, though, there will be people that will disagree with you. So really be prepared and be respectful of that. But if you haven't checked out Reddit as a place to be getting content for your business, for getting content around what your ideal client or your community is talking about, go there and have a look. I promise you, it will be a good place for you to hang out. Of course, then there's Quora, so another great platform to stay on top of what's going on in your niche world. Quora is like a question and answer website. There are questions where questions are asked and answered, edited, and organized by its community of users. So it basically works by ask a question. So any registered user can post a question on a topic they're curious about. Or, of course, as a user, you can also answer questions based on your knowledge and your experiences. So it's a great place to find out, again, what questions your community is actually asking. Of course, aside from the places like the 5 I've already mentioned above, like the tools that you can use to find content that is keeping your ideal customer up at night or questions that they're typing in to get answers for, you can also use tools like, your Instagram story stickers to ask questions and get answers from your community, which of course will give you great insights to how and what they're thinking. You can read industry publications and blogs. If you don't know where they are, then do some research as to what industry publications there are around the industry you're in, or who actually writes blogs around your niche. Of course, you can be looking around at what other thought leaders in your industry are sharing on their socials. And not only that, but looking at the responses and the engagement they're getting from what it is that they're posting. You could do the old fashioned thing and do some surveys and some feedback forms from your actual ideal clients. And get their point of view and their feedback as well. Like all of this, you can create content out of. Like I said in episode 250, content is everything. So, you can get content from just about everywhere. Um, of course, there's other popular websites that you can get content from, such as Pocket, Feedly, and BuzzSumo. You can find new perspectives over there. You can find intriguing deep dives over there. And of course, you can find timeless classic content worthy of your time over there. Like, there's just so much that you can do. There are literally tons of places you can find content. You just need to know where your people are hanging out, Be curious about what they're asking, what information are they sharing, and how that information can relate to the content that you can share with your community. Of course, if your audience aren't hanging out in Reddit and aren't hanging out on Pocket and don't hang out in Facebook groups, then don't hang out in those places just because I have said so on this podcast episode. You know your ideal client and you need to know where they hang out and where the best place is to find this information. So these are great places that I find information, but you need to work out where your clients are hanging out and where you can find this information. Of course, Google is a no-brainer. Like your clients will be typing things into Google, or your customers or your community will definitely be typing things into Google. So that's a bit of a no-brainer. The others, maybe not. Maybe you've got to work that out for yourself. Of course, if you're stuck on how to get a brilliant piece of information or content out to your community, as in, you're not quite sure how to write that blog or how to write that script for a live video, or how do you write that long caption for social media, or how do you design that infographic to explain the answer, then these are the questions that you can go to ChatGPT or Bard, for example. You can go and ask them, how do I right, can you help me write a long form caption for Instagram, or can you help write me a script for a live video? Like these, you've got these tools available to you. You just need to think outside the square on how you can use them. Just a side note, Bard is Google's AI platform like ChatGPT, in case you haven't heard of Bard. I'd suggest you have a look at both ChatGPT and Bard. Of course, when creating content that answers your ideal questions, you need to be specific. Don't just write some general blog about your industry. Really focus on answering specific questions for your client. Just think one piece of content, one problem. Don't try and make your one blog solve 12 problems. Like, no one's got time to read that. You'll confuse buyer doesn't buy. One problem, one piece of content. And then, of course, it also allows you to spread content out over a longer period of time. Make sure you're thorough, though. Make sure your content is comprehensive and informative, and answer the relevant questions that your ideal client might have. How do you know they're relevant? Well, you've found them where they hang out. That's exactly how you know that they're relevant. Make it easy to read. Or understand if you're doing a verbal one, either. Make sure you use clear and concise language. Definitely avoid using jargon and technical terms that your client might not understand. Even if you think that everyone knows what it is, they may not. Just like when I've mentioned Bard a couple of times, the little alarm bell went off on my head. It's like, maybe everyone doesn't know that Bard is Google's AI tool. I need to explain that. So make sure, you are being clear in what it is that you're explaining, or that you're writing about, or that you're talking about. And make sure over and above that it's seriously helpful, that you are providing value to your ideal client. You're helping them solve a problem. You're helping them achieve whatever the goal is. There's no use doing any of this if you're not going to be helpful to your ideal client. Now, there is a bonus tip because, hey, there's always a bonus tip. Once you've created this content that answers your ideal client's questions, make sure you promote it. Not just share it on one platform, but share it on social media, submit it to directories, reach out to other websites and bloggers and see if they're interested in sharing it as well. Tag people who you think might be interested in reading this, that have this particular problem. Get eyeballs on it, because if you're going to create content that solves someone's problem, you need to make sure that whoever's problem is gets eyeballs on it. The more people who see your content, the more likely you are to attract new customers, or be seen to be giving enormous values to the customers you already have in your world, because they will actually see that you're listening to them and you're listening to their issues and you're solving their problems, because they can see that you are talking about their problems. And believe me, everyone wants to spend money with someone who can do that, who can understand them, who will listen to them, and who will solve their problems. So I really hope this episode has helped you look well, not look, think outside the square when it comes to content creation and, of course, your marketing. Loads of small business owners find marketing overwhelming, and the need to be always creating content definitely contributes to this overwhelm. So, between this episode and episode 251, I think I called it 250 earlier in the podcast. So, I do apologize. Episode 251 was 3 tips for creating your content. Yeah, not 250. So I do apologize for getting that one wrong. But yeah, go and have a listen to that episode as well as, of course, you've listened to this one. Of course, as I mentioned earlier, you can find the show notes for this particular podcast episode at all the W's and then social media and marketing.com.au/265, because that's it for episode 265. I really hope you found it valuable. And if you did, I would love you to take 30 seconds out of your day to leave me a rating and a review wherever you are listening to this podcast, if of course that's possible. Otherwise, I'll see you next week for episode 266. But before I go, two things. Did you have a listen to my bonus episode, which came out on Sunday, which was celebrating International Rural Women's Day? I had 9 amazing rural women on the podcast, which, just sharing their stories and helping me celebrate International Rural Women's Day. So go and have a listen to that bonus episode if you haven't already. Don't forget my November edition of the 4-week email marketing course. You can sign up for that. Links in the show notes. If we aren't friends on social, come and find me. I would love to hang out with you on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok, Threads, wherever it is that you are hanging out and you come and find me. That would be awesome. But whatever you do, remember, my small business people, as my opening song says, there is no point in dreaming small.
No time like the present. Tell it like you feel it, say it proud, be true, and let us see you for the star that you are. No point in dreaming small.
I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land, the Yorta Yorta people, on which I record this podcast and conduct my business today, and pay my respects to their elders, past and present. I extend this respect to the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people here with us today as well.